Please welcome Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council President and CEO Peter Hurst, who is moderating the conversation with Stefanie Boles, who you just heard from the United Way of Central and Northeastern Connecticut, Sam Gray from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hartford, and Miranda Muro from Connecticut Food Bank and Foodshare. Peter, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I look forward to this conversation with you and the panel. Take it away.
Thank you. We've been instructed to dive right in. So we're going to talk today about the economic impact of nonprofit organizations here in Connecticut. So I'd like to start, since all of the panelists have been introduced, and ask them to share with us what their organizations have been doing during the pandemic and what are they doing now that we are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully, with respect to the pandemic. Miranda, you want to kick us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So I work at Connecticut Food Bank and Foodshare. Many people may have seen us in the headlines for our distribution at Rensselaer Field. A lot of what we've been doing over the past year is responding to a significant increase in food insecurity as more and more people have found themselves without work or unable to make ends meet. We've had to increase our distribution significantly. There was a 30% increase in food insecurity last year in Connecticut. That means over 500,000 people didn't have access to enough food. So we've ramped up our distributions, found new ways to get food out to people. As the state reopens, we're hopeful that more and more people will be able to go back to work. But we know that needs still persist. So we're continuing to find creative ways to meet people where they are, to make sure people have their basic needs met.
Sam, what has the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hartford been doing during the pandemic, and what do you see so far in 2021?
And you're on mute.
You're muted, Sam.
You know, I knew one day it was going to happen to me, and it would happen today. So thank you for asking that question. And I can say to you what the Boys and Girls Clubs has been doing since the pandemic. We had to pivot as an organization. We've always been a hands-on organization, right, with our young people. We had to pivot in the sense that we had to provide virtual services for our young people. And we've been doing that still to this day. But we've been able since July 6th of last year to be open and do in-person services specifically for those kids that really need us the most and those families that need us the most. So we pivoted in the sense that we don't serve the large number of youth just to be safe, not only for our young people, for also our staff, that we are in person live with providing services with our young people. And so currently right now we're planning for next steps, what this summer is going to look like. How we're going to be engaged with our young people that walk through our doors. How do we possibly re-engage volunteers? Right now, we have volunteers that are virtually engaging with our young people, but now we're looking at the possibility as we start to see some community impact with vaccinations of what that next step will look for us in the future. So we're excited, right? But we also want to be safe and responsible in how we reintegrate back into our community.
Thank you, Sam. Stefanie, what about the United Way? What were you doing during the pandemic, and what have you been doing so far in 2021?
Thanks so much, Peter, and thank you for just having me here today. Well, you know, we are the philanthropic partner for many corporations in our communities, and with their support, we were able to immediately pull together a COVID-19 fund that raised additional resources for our community partners. And we're so grateful to be here today on this panel with two of our community partners. We were able to raise a significant amount of resources and push that out to our nonprofit partners so that they could meet the needs that they were seeing. And the beauty about United Way is, since we are a convener and a collaborator, we could connect with all of the needs that were evident in March of last year and make sure that we were helping to bring all of that together under one umbrella and make sure there were resources available for our communities.
So thank you. So I lived and worked in Connecticut for a number of years and actually did a lot of business in Connecticut's urban centers. And there is a stark difference between the urban centers and the rest of Connecticut. And I know each and every one of you are focused on meeting the needs of all citizens, but there's a special need in those urban centers. Why don't you just share with us, which is the topic of our conversation today, what role do nonprofits play in Connecticut's economy, and with a special emphasis on our urban centers? Sam, you want to kick us off because you're right in the heart of Hartford?
So I would say that nonprofit organizations play a vital role in building healthy communities by providing critical services that contribute to economic stability and mobility, right? What we do strengthens our communities in so many different ways. So that's why I'm really thankful that you have us here today to be a voice for the people and the youth we serve in our community. But when you really look at the even broader impact that we have in regards to creating economic activity and jobs that ripple through our community, think about this, right? You think about the Hartford stage, right? And they have a play, and what that impact, that economic impact that has to our urban setting, our city, right? 1, you have to park. 2, you have to pay for the tickets. Then 3, you may go to dinner before, right? And then not only that, your significant other or even yourself might go out and buy an outfit, right? But all of that creates economic activity that impacts our community, right? So we have a very important impact as nonprofits in a number of ways. So,
Miranda?
Yeah, I'd like to add that really what Sam said, people need to have their basic needs met in order to be the best that they can be in contributing to our economy. We know that when kids have the food they need, they perform better in school. They don't have as many disciplinary issues at school. They're going to grow on to be the contributing members of society that they want to be and they can be. For adults, if you don't have food, if you don't have shelter, if you don't have safety, figuring out work and stability at work is really hard. So what nonprofits do is we provide that network with support from our corporate partners, with support with government to make sure that people have those basic needs met so we can be a thriving community together.
Stefanie, what about United Way? I know is active throughout the country, but they're really active here in Connecticut. Share with us what the United Way does in terms of making an economic contribution to Connecticut.
Sure. United Way's mission has always been to engage and bring together people and resources committed to the well-being of children and families in our communities. Together, we can do more than any of us can do alone. We're about real solutions and lasting change and working with communities to be able to bring that about. When our neighbors, our families, our friends have the ability to work, to provide, and thrive, that adds to the economic growth in our state. It provides resources. It helps our businesses grow and achieve their goals. It attracts others to the state and improves our communities. And so as a convener and a collaborator and an organization that brings so many voices to the table, we see ourselves as that organization that holds our communities together and resources what we need to be able to collectively change community.
So thank you. The next thing I'd like to touch on goes to something I think is very important. Our audience are a lot of members of the CBIA. When I was doing business in Connecticut, I was on the board of CBIA. So this is the right audience to have this conversation, this segment of the conversation focused on. Let's spend a few minutes sharing with the audience the details of all of the inequities that exist in Connecticut: income, wealth, housing, food, healthcare, education. Each one of your organizations touches on several of these inequities. And let's just give the audience some detail. Sam, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I would say nonprofits that provide care for children or elderly parents allow family members who would otherwise shoulder the burden of providing care of instead work outside of their home. Think about right now, we're in a pandemic. We have young people that are attending school in a blended learning model. You have its parents, and many of the parents that we serve are essential employees. And so we made the pivotal decision that we needed to be there for the families, be there for kids who really need us the most. So the impact that we look at is we're partners in this, right? Because even when I look at our workforce, it's essential that we do the work, the good work for young people in this trying time, and also do it very safely. So, you look at, job trainings and placement services and, for people that would otherwise be unemployed or underemployed. This is the opportunity that we have been given at this time to be there for those families who really need us the most. And that's what I would say.
So thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Miranda, food insecurity is one of those basic things we all worry about. As you explain, the details of the inequities that exist in this state with respect to food insecurity, could you just share with us what's the difference between overall food insecurity and child food insecurity?
Sure. Yeah. Food insecurity has been an issue for a long time. As part of the pandemic, it became even greater and more people became aware of it as an issue. But what we at Connecticut Food Bank and Foodshare want people to know is that it's always been an issue. There's been very persistent need. And certain populations are at greater risk. We know that children are at greater risk of hunger than general adults. We know that seniors are at greater risk of hunger. We also know that African Americans, Hispanic households, people of color are at greater risk of hunger. And that speaks to inequities. We also know that Connecticut is among the wealthiest states in the country, and we know there's enough food for everyone. We know that. It's a matter of making sure people have the opportunity to get the food that they need to have their needs met. During the pandemic, we've had the opportunity to serve so many new people who were working multiple jobs, who found themselves all of a sudden unable to do what they knew and what they loved to do, asking for help for the first time. People who previously donated to our organization were in line at Rensselaer Field asking for help. And because of the support of our community, we were able to be there for them, but that need still continues.
So let me get this straight. So folks who were potential previously donors were now clients. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we often, hunger is a hidden issue. You can't tell by looking at someone that they don't have enough food. And people cope in a lot of different ways. But we know a lot of people, even if you're working multiple jobs, if things are tight, cost of living is high, food is where you're going to cut back. Parents will skip meals so their kids can eat. People water down food. It's happening here in our state, in every town in our state. It's not just the cities. It's deep in the cities, but it's also in rural and suburban communities as well.
Thank you. Stefanie, the United Way has done a lot of very valuable research in this area, and you annually produce something called the Alice Reports, which are just chock full of great details that really get to the heart of the issues that we're talking about. Can you just tell us about the Alice Reports and some of the findings that relate to all of these inequities that exist in Connecticut?
Absolutely. ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. And these are families, as Miranda was just mentioning, they're families who are working often multiple jobs. Their income is above the federal poverty level, but are still unable to make ends meet in Connecticut. ALICE cares for our children. They care for our seniors. They work in our offices and retail. They're vital for keeping our economy here in Connecticut running smoothly. And there are ALICE households in every county in Connecticut. And we're happy to share the resource with anyone who's interested and have conversations about it. But what we've seen, also to what both Miranda and Sam have said, some families in the Alice population have slipped below the poverty level this year, and other families who were above the threshold have also found themselves for the first time needing services. And it has been devastating to see, and it's challenging. And we've got a ways back, but working with great corporate partners like Connecticut Food Bank and Foodshare and Boys and Girls Club and others, we are working together to address those needs.
So one of the sad realities that I learned when I read the Alice report is that the percentage where you have the highest amount of poverty were the urban centers, Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, Waterbury, New Britain. And it just really shows that there is a intersection in the state between class and race that we need to address. And the first step in addressing it is to have data like you see in these Alice reports. We all talk about, inequities, and we care about them because I care about minority business development and economic inclusion. The three of you are focused on addressing these issues. But one of the things I think is very important to explain to the audience is, why should the private sector care about these issues? And Stefanie, I'm going to let you start off, because there is one table in your Alice report, I think, that really nails it in terms of why the private sector should really care. Because the one thing I can tell you as a business person, business people care about dollars and cents. So Stefanie, I'll let you kick off on addressing that issue.
Thank you. Our business partners and community are essential to how our communities will thrive. Making jobs available to our communities is essential. As I was saying earlier, it helps our communities to thrive when we see our neighbors, our family members, our friends, colleagues that we work with be able to make their way above the Alice threshold and be able to give back to community by being able to thrive themselves. It's imperative for our community. I think that when businesses come together with nonprofits, with other entities, with their neighbors, and source out these challenges and come together to develop solutions to the pressing issues in our communities, we will all thrive through all of that. And it does help businesses to raise more dollars and cents, and it trickles down to communities. I know many of the businesses that are on this Zoom call today are connected with our Workforce Solutions Collaborative of Metro Hartford, and their mission is to invest in employer-led and worker-centered approaches to connect job seekers to quality jobs with opportunities for advancement and increased earnings. We at United Way are committed to upscaling and connecting with young people who've historically been disconnected from the workforce system. And working collaboratively with business partners to be able to do that has been significant for our communities, and we need more of that. We need more of that and more conversations around how we together will help to help our communities thrive.
So for all of those leaders in the private sector who are listening today, and hopefully a lot of folks in the governor's office, according to the 2020 Alice report, if we could solve some of these issues that Stefanie's organization wrote about, it would add $42.6 billion per year to the GDP of Connecticut. Now, that's real money. Let me pivot to Sam. Sam, in terms of why the private sector should care, your programs are focused on a lot of important areas for young people: education and STEM, health and wellness, leadership and service, college and career. Just give us a sense of why the private sector should, sort of support you and care about these issues. Because even though you're in Hartford, I think these issues have applicability statewide.
They are, right? So when you look at Boys and Girls Clubs and the 16 other Boys and Girls Clubs throughout the state of Connecticut, we all have the same mission. To enable all of our young people especially those who need us the most, to realize their full potential as productive, responsible, and caring citizens, right? And so with that mission, as you just talked about, those program focus areas are critical for us. Developing the workforce for the 21st century, workforce readiness, college and career preparation, academic success, health and wellness. Those are all crucial tools, programs, skills, knowledge that are necessary to help them become employable for our state, right? So when you really look at, some of the things in regards to us as nonprofits, when you really look at who we are, we employ a lot of people that when you look at our payrolls, we pretty much exceed some other, major industries that include construction and transportation and finance, right? As nonprofit, we consume goods and services that create jobs, right? So you think about a nonprofit hospital that's buying medical supplies, or you think about the everyday purchases that we have to make as nonprofits in regards to office supplies and food or utilities and maybe even rent. That all contributes. But when you really look at how nonprofits attract other employers to our communities, right? We're a feather in the hat. When you think about Foodshare, how comprehensive and supportive our United Way is, and other you-serving or other organizations, nonprofits, what that means to local chamber of commerce in regards to attracting businesses to our area, that's the value of nonprofits. So going back to your question, we see as critical as far as the program focuses that we have in Boys and Girls Club to create that workforce for tomorrow right here in our state.
Miranda.
It's just so inspiring to hear Sam and Stefanie talk, and just reminding me of how we're all connected, and why should corporations care about nonprofits? We're all connected in our communities. When one person's successful, we're all successful. I think an anecdote that I can share just to show the personal side of this, again, I keep on bringing up Rentschler Field because we've been spending a lot of time there, but Connecticut Food Bank, Foodshare, we serve a network of 700 sites like Rentschler Field, food pantries, soup kitchens, emergency shelters. When I was walking through Rentschler Field last year talking to people, one day I had multiple people ask us, "Are you hiring?" They were asking Foodshare if they could work for us. People want to contribute. And, we talk a lot about the deficits, the need. The people we serve in our communities, they want to contribute and they have so much to offer. They need that chance. They need the opportunity. They need programs like Boys and Girls Club. They need programs like workforce development. They want to feel good, and they want to contribute.
So thank you, Miranda. So Stefanie, what role does the private sector play in the work that the United Way does?
I have to take myself off mute. Well, the private sector, we're fortunate to be the philanthropic partner for so many corporations in our communities who want to be able to give back, who want to be able to do something specific in community, who want to be able to get their employees engaged in community. And they've found a great partner in United Way to be able to do that. Not only do we raise dollars from our corporate partners, but we also help them to invest dollars that they'd like to go to certain charities or certain pieces of work in the community. And we help them to sort that out, to be able to make their contributions count, to be able to provide them with information about what's going on in the community, in addition to the Alice report, being able to be that resource for our corporate partners. And it's been great. We have an Emerging Leaders Society program with many of our corporate partners. Their employees are involved in that. And that gets young people, young professionals involved in community. It helps them to develop a network, which is critical for people just starting out in their jobs. Being able to start a network, have people that you can lean on, develop community from there. It adds to longevity for them in their workplaces and also helps our businesses thrive. We also have a Women United network, which also brings together women who are concerned about financial stability in community, especially with single-parent households led by women, and for children in the community. They have done significant work. And so being able to bring that also to our corporate partners so that they can engage their employees has been significant for community and so many other things that United Way does. And so being a part of this network of nonprofits together with our community partners and others, it gives our employers working with United Way an opportunity to have access to all of that through our expertise and through our team that is basically boots on the ground and knows what's going on in community. So that's our connection with corporate partners, and that's how they can get involved in community.
So Sam, what role does the private sector play with the Boys and Girls Clubs? And if you had a blank piece of paper, what would you do to improve that role and make it even more effective?
You said the word improve. I think the corporate community that we have here in Hartford is amazing, right? And so if you ask me to dream, and I do that a lot, right? I would say prior to the pandemic, our board here at the Boys and Girls Club really looked at where the kids are in Hartford. We looked at the data. We looked at the Hartford Public Schools information. We looked at it by zone, by neighborhoods. And again, when you go back to who we are, we want to be in places where kids need us the most. And one of the pivotal things that we did as an organization is that we looked at a community that didn't have any youth serving services after school, which was in the south end of Hartford. And strategically, we did some work with the city of Hartford and the mayor to local business leaders, many corporations, and decided to go into a capital campaign. Why? To build a new 30,000 square foot facility to serve kids that didn't have any after school place to go. And I can say to you, it was because of the corporate community we were successful. When you really look at those key figures, and I'll say one, and there's many, many more, but Chris Swift, the CEO from the Hartford, was amazing as our campaign chair. And we had a goal of raising $20 million right here in Hartford for our kids and our families for this new beacon of hope in the South End. And so by February of last year, we got $20 million. I'm proud to say that when we broke ground on June 11th with the governor, with the mayor, with several key state legislators and other community leaders, when we broke ground on June 11th, the process has been amazing for us. I'm happy to say, hopefully, by July 1st, we may have keys in hand to open up this new Boys and Girls Club, which is 2 months ahead of schedule. What that means for us and what that means for young people this summer may be an opportunity for kids to be not on the streets, not in unproductive or things that they should not be involved in, but a positive place where we can connect them with our friends from the corporate community and share those talents and gifts with our young people in a place that many will call a second home. So this was primarily done by the corporate community. It was engagement from those different ERGs within those companies to become mentors, to become just volunteers in our clubs that help kids see, the workforce, what they aspire to be in the future in a different way. That's what it's really all about. That's what our corporate community, our business community means specifically to the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm sure everybody on this panel can really testify to that. But I am excited. I'm excited now and now more than ever because our kids, our community need the business community more than ever.
I'm excited about that. Miranda, how do you relate with the private sector and what could we do to make that relationship even more effective?
We wouldn't be able to exist without the corporate sector. I really have to say that. we're so fortunate. If you look at the work of Connecticut Food Bank Foodshare, if you've ever been to our facility, we couldn't do what we do without volunteers. We have 8,000 volunteers every year. Many of them are corporate groups who come out to our warehouses, sort food, make sure it's safe for people to eat. The food we distribute, it's donated to us by food industry, by farmers, by supermarkets, by different food producers. And then I also just need to add that the donations to help us gas up our trucks, to keep our lights on, to keep our warehouse safe, to help pay our 118 staff who are making sure that we have local solutions to hunger. And over the past year during the pandemic, you've noticed we're saying Connecticut Food Bank and Foodshare, we've gone through a merger. We were two separate food banks doing very similar work in different parts of the state. Our board of directors, who are many corporate professionals who brought their expertise, came to the table, and they worked through the pandemic while we were meeting unprecedented need to look at how can we work together and pull our resources to be more coordinated. So our board has been critical in that skill set that they've offered to bring us together. And now we're one food bank. Connecticut has one food bank, and we can be coordinated for the people that we serve in our communities. I'd say the one thing I would ask of the corporate sector is we've seen such tremendous support over the past year because hunger has been very evident. You see the long lines. Hunger has always been an issue, and we hope that that level of attention will continue because together we really can solve this.
So we spent a lot of time talking about how the corporate sector works with each one of your organizations. Let's take a few minutes and talk about how the public sector, the governor, the mayors, legislators, what policy initiatives could they prioritize to help you with the work you do? Stefanie, I'll let you go first.
So we do have a policy agenda with United Way of Connecticut. It's on the website. You can certainly see that, and I don't have it in front of me. I apologize for that. But certainly prioritizing the needs of individuals in the community as we try and come back from this pandemic. As both Miranda and Sam have said, the needs of our youth, there's learning loss. So prioritizing learning loss for our youth, prioritizing food for our communities, prioritizing jobs, and what that means for small and medium-sized businesses trying to get their businesses back after the pandemic, prioritizing those issues and making resources available for
So Miranda, I think Stefanie's frozen. Why don't you
Sure.
share with us
for us to be able to come back.
What your wish list is from the public sector?
I think I'll use this as an opportunity to educate that food banks and food pantries are just one part of the puzzle when it comes to making sure people have access to the food that they need. Our public schools through the USDA, Department of Social Services, State Department of Education, there have been so many people working on those programs that also provide people food. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, used to be called food stamps. For every meal that a food bank like Foodshare provides, SNAP provides 9. It gives people the opportunity to go to the grocery store to help local economies to buy the food that they need to succeed in life. So I would just say that continuing to look at the role that government can play in making sure that people have their basic needs met, while also looking at how can we support people to have a thriving community, to move forward in life, to have economic opportunity, to have workforce development.
So Sam, other than another 20 million, what could the public sector do for the Boys and Girls Clubs? It's kind of hard to beat.
It's kind of hard to beat, but I guess the big elephant is around this American Rescue Plan and how that is going to cascade to nonprofits and others in our community, and what does that look like, right? So we've all seen the newspaper. The governor is making some great announcements in regards to what that is going to look like, how it's going to scale out, and it's exciting, right? It's interesting. We were fortunate enough here at the Boys and Girls Club to have the governor and the chief of staff and another state official come over to the Boys and Girls Club. And, we're still in COVID, so I asked for no entourage, no cameras. He wanted to talk to kids. He wanted to talk to them about, how they felt about school, right? The pandemic. But it was the day after the George Floyd verdict. He wanted to hear from kids as far as how they feel. And I had some very courageous young people that pretty much said what was on their hearts, right? And I can say that from that conversation, the governor listened. Hence why you see, and I'm excited to see a number of things that he's doing and will cascade to nonprofits across the state, right? Because he's listening. When I think about our mayor, Luke Bronin, a couple of months ago, he pretty much did the same thing. And he asked a number of us as CEOs and nonprofit leaders to come together because his goal is for this summer to engage every young person with an enrichment activity, at least one enrichment activity this summer, right? It's about 23,000 young people in the city of Hartford. But how collectively can we work together to make this happen? And so we provided recommendations, but we did it together as nonprofits. And that's what excites me. There are some amazing organizations, not only on this panel, but throughout our city, our communities that are doing good work. But collectively, when we're put together, we can be very powerful, very impactful to the families and youth and others that really need our services now more than ever.
So all three of you share something I think is essential to be in this space. You have a passion for the work you do. And the reason each one of your organizations exists is because there's a need that is not being met otherwise. Now, the question I'm about to ask is pretty provocative, but I think it's something we need to spend a few minutes that we have left talking about. What do we need to do to work ourselves out of a job? In other words, what do we need to do in this state to ensure that at one point, at some day, that our respective organizations are not necessary? And Stefanie, I'll let you go first.
Sure, and I apologize if I got frozen last time. So I will say that it's something that we have to do together. This is not just on one entity. It's not on government or business or nonprofits. It's all of us together determining what we want for our communities and how we're going to get there. Coming together to collaborate, to sort out really, really tough issues in our communities. It's not just about throwing money at it. It does take resources, but it's also about determining what we want as a community and coming to the collective understanding that when we all thrive, our communities thrive, our businesses thrive, our children are thriving. There's no need for food support. There's no need for a lot of the services. And I think that's the space that we'd all love to see us get to and be in. We'd love to all be out of business and see our communities being able to provide for themselves. So those are my thoughts.
So Miranda, what do you think? What do you have to do?
Question made me smile. We would love to see a day where people don't need to wait in line in a public parking lot waiting for free food. And so what do we need to get there? I think a willingness to collaborate, to dream big, and to have some clear goals across sectors that we can all work towards. Even within the nonprofit sector, we're also busy trying to achieve our mission that we can find ourselves in silos where we're working in our area. But if we were to have the time to kind of look up, how can we bridge across organizations, not just hunger organizations, anti-poverty organizations, housing organizations, workforce development, and then how can our corporate partners, our government partners get aligned where we're working towards this common vision? And in doing that, making sure we have the people we're aiming to serve at the table, leading those conversations, contributing their ideas, telling us what they need, what they want, what they envision, working together.
Sam.
Peter, I'm not going out of business. I'm not going out of business. And the reason why I say that, kids will always be here. Our youth children will always be here. And so as the founding organization for Boys and Girls Clubs around the world, Yes, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hartford is club number 1, founded in 1860. And so for 161 years, we have been committed to the greater Hartford community, to doing the good work, to help those young people be everything that we need them to be in our communities. So we're not going out of business.
So I got to ask this last question for each one of you. Clearly, folks who work in nonprofits aren't doing it for the money. In the remaining time we have left, which is not that much, tell us why you're doing this personally, rather than anything else you could be doing. Because clearly, with your talent, your passion, your insights, your intelligence, your skills, you could be doing anything you want to do. Why are you doing this? And Miranda, I'll let you start.
You know, I was raised in a household where I was taught to look out for my neighbors, and I have been so fortunate to not have to worry about where food is coming from. And for me, it's wrong that people, that parents, that individuals are struggling and not having their basic needs met. And that's what motivates me every day. And knowing that we're making an impact just on one life, you know, when I meet people, that's what drives me. And it's challenging. So every day is different. So, you know, there's always something that comes up, but really, we're all connected. I said that before. We really are. We're all connected, and that's what drives me.
Sam?
So I'm a club kid. I've been associated with Boys and Girls Clubs from 8 to 18 for 10 years. And then when I looked at the calendar more recently, I've been professionally in this work for 30 years. So 40 years I've been associated with a place that has given so much to me and has always been my second home. So when you look at the history of Boys and Girls Club, 160 years, and 40 of it, I spent a fourth of the history I've been associated with this organization. I love what I do every single day. And I remember a staff member in that local Boys and Girls Club in Richmond, Virginia, coming over to me and taking me by my hand. And I was very much an introvert. And I sat with amazement for about an hour until Mr. Vance Trowbridge walked over to me and took me over to an air hockey table. And we all know the cartoon Snoopy and Linus. And Linus was the one that had the blanket. Well, for me, that air hockey table was my blanket. And I played games with Mr. Vance, and 8 turned into 18. I had board members that took interest in me. It just opened up a world professionally that I just did not know. And I love what I've been doing every day since I've been exposed to the professional work that we do for young people. So I'm in my dream job. I'm in my assignment in life, and I'm loving it every single day.
I love that, Sam.
That was great, Sam. Stefanie?
So I want to second what Sam said, and also Miranda. I love this work. The fact that I get to come to work every day and change someone's life it's amazing. It's amazing. And, you know, I didn't know until after I came to work with United Way that many of the programs that I attended when I was a child were United Way funded programs. I had no idea. But those programs were everything to me and to my siblings in my household. And now I get to return that back to community tenfold, 100-fold by doing the best work possible so that our communities are able to thrive. It means everything to me. It truly does.
So Stefanie, Sam, Miranda, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. Thank you to the United Way, to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hartford, to the Connecticut Food Bank. Thank you. And let's all continue to work that we're doing so that we get rid of that $42 billion gap that the Alice report outlined. So have a great weekend, and I want to thank the CBIA for allowing us to take this time to share your thoughts and your insights about the contributions that your nonprofit organizations and nonprofits in general are making here in Connecticut. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Bye.
Bye.